Hello, people of New World. It's me, Lamani. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be going through top 3 PvP damage builds for high burst. I'm a healer. These are the things and the builds that really catch me off guard sometimes and randomly just wombo combo burst me to death. So let's dive into it. All right, first build is BBIG. Let's start with the IG. I will say this build is just insane burst, especially if you combo it with a spike setup instead of a shower setup, which is what I prefer. You full in scale and you'll just go to town. It's nuts what the blunderbuss can do, even though you're scaling off of its secondary. So let's start with the IG build. Starting the Ice Tempest side. We're just gonna max out Ice Spike. Ice Spike is a little weird if you've never used it. You do have to aim it down at their feet and slightly to the right or to the left to make sure that you get all of the spike hits. But sometimes these will all crit for 2.5, even 3K and just blow people up. It can one shot, especially squishies. It staggers, and it is so much fun to use. Definitely one of my personal favorites is a DPS build. We then go into increasing the damage of our basic attacks, and then we skip over, personally, the crit damage when your stamina is full. We then just take Critical Frost for increased crit chance. We get Heavy Freeze for that root because that sets up so many kills, and Ultimate Chill. Ideally, we put them in an Ice Storm. They're ticking damage. They've been rooted or something somehow. We hit them with the spike. Boom. Done. Now let's go over to the builder side. We're just going to take blocking stamina. We then go into Empowered Frost because we have to. Take Entombed into Cleansing Tomb. Thank me later. And then personally, I go into Defiant Freeze. So this is one of those ones where why I don't take the crit damage on the other side. Because if I take Defiant Freeze, I get this 20% Fortify when I'm using abilities. And when I'm close up with a spike playing in light armor, this does help a ton. I promise you. So personally, I like that. That's just my personal preference though. Ultimately, with this build, you will just be looking to hit people long range with your Ice Gauntlet and then diving in for spikes, and then you're swapping to the Blunderbuss to try and get some close range damage kills, or you can use the net to then catch people from far away. So let's dive into the actual Blunderbuss build. Okay, on the Blunderbuss side, we're going to be looking at Containment, going into Net Shot, and we're not going to take Barb Netting because we don't need the dot because I want cooldown reduction on the other side. We then take Azoth Shrapnel Blast and load it all the way through. What I will say is Unload is nice. They did nerf it a while back, but only having 2 more pellets, it's kind of hit or miss, right? Sometimes you whiff half your pellets anyway, so what's the point when we can get cooldown reduction? So personally, that's all I do. I put 8 points into Containment side. There's some neat passes over there, but just absolutely not necessary when we look at the other things. On the Chaos side, we're going to go into Splitting Grenade. This does tons of AoE damage, leaves a burn on everybody, gives you haste, does increased damage to low health players, and is just great for clearing AoE packs, but also putting anti-heal. If you have Plague crits and then you go into Plague Splitting Grenade, you have a ton of anti-heal here, especially comboed with cooldown reduction. So we'll take all the cooldown reduction passives in the top left, headshots and when using abilities. Our other passives, they look at Fortify, so we do get some Fortify when using abilities, and we have Last Chance in case our tomb is down. The other 2 that increase damage, Artillery, we really won't make use of unless we're netting, and then Buckshot, just nice for a little burst potential. And then Double Down is the real big thing. If I can get 2 Azoth shots off or 2 Splitting Grenades off pretty much simultaneously, or even 2 net shots to root people or to just get out of like a grav well or clear some distance because that adds mobility to the kit, it's fantastic. Overall, this is looking at high damage, high burst potential, and a ton of ways to CC people and add anti-heal to kill healers, squishies, bruisers, anybody, you name it. And you just get into the mix, you're up close, you have a ton of damage reduction, and you just pop off. Going into a 310 int 200 con split is honestly the best. You have enough damage, you're in light, and the Blunderbuss still does tons of damage, even though you're full int scaled because of the elemental component. For the Ice Gauntlet, personally, just go Crystalline Curse. You're going to want Refreshing Move, Enchanted, and Unending Thaw. If you don't know what this is, just get to 200 Arcana and craft it yourself. For the gem, we're going to want an Opal. On the Blunderbuss, I would say get Plague Crits, Plague Splitting Grenades, and then Enchanted would be great. And then go into a tier 2 Aquamarine. I would go ahead and use that when you're in scaling. Other ability perks that may be useful on gear, Leeching Azoth Shrapnel Blast could be useful. Exhaustive Net could also be useful. And then general perks for gear, we're looking for Rezill in PvP, and then things like Shirking Fort, Freedom, Ellie Aversion, whatever you can get to fit in. Personally, Shirking Fort's a favorite. And for jewelry, on the amulet, we're going to be looking at getting health and stam recovery, and then whatever else you can get for ward, either thrust protection or slash protection. On the ring, I would highly recommend getting Invigorated Punishment, Ice Damage Hardy. Personally, Invigorated Punishment over Ice Damage if you can only get a 2 perk. And then the earring, we want Refreshing Toast. Refreshing, Regenerating would be a good setup. Next build that catches me off guard and has crazy burst potential is light armor bruiser with a great axe and a warhammer, specifically in a Mauler setup, not a bloodlust setup. With this, on the Reaper side, we're just going to take charge, and then all the passes that we're taking are going to give us some empower, give us a little bit of healing, crit modifiers, and give us some armor pen. You could opt for bloodlust if you really wanted to, but I wouldn't in this setup. You do so much more with Mauler. On the Mauler side, we're going to be taking Maelstrom and Gravity Well. Maelstrom gives you some damage peel by blocking projectiles, can crit upwards of 3k, hits twice, pulls enemies in, and is just a great ability to have. Also stacks Mauler. Then you go Gravity Well, you clump people in, and then you can use your hammer, you can use the axe, you can do whatever. The more people in there, the better, and then Insatiable Grav pops for even more. We're going to be taking passives that will give us defensiveness. Whenever we have grit, we have 12% damage reduction. We then also get some stamina back. So this works really well with stamina recovery, because if we get hit below 50% health while we have our Great Axe out, we get a huge stamina boost. We go into anything that gives us modifiers with 3+ enemies around, because we're trying to get up in the clumps. And then again, Mauler is just great. You can stack this on doors, target dummies, whatever, and you get a 30% damage boost if you get all the stacks, and you just dive in and pop off. This build is all about AoE burst damage and CC. You can go in, clump everyone up with the Gravwell, and then you can Shockwave, Wrecking Ball, and then start Maelstrom. It's really cooldown dependent, so make sure that if you're going to commit to a dive, that you have things up. You have a ton of passive damage reduction and a lot of healing to go along with it. This build is best played in a 300 strength, 200 con setup. We want to always be gridded, so put your extra points into strength if you're looking for more damage, con if you want some more health. On our Great Axe, we will be looking for Refreshing Move, Thwarting Strikes, and then whatever damage modifier you can get, like Chain or Attunement. On our Hammer, we want Sundering Shockwave for the biggest rend. We then want Keenly Jagged. On both weapons, we will be looking for a opal that has a rune glass modifier for dot damage, because we want to get more ticks so that we can charge our heart rune faster. For your gear, ability specific perks, we need Insatiable Gravwell. We would like to have Leeching Path of Destiny, and if you can fit it in, Enfeebling Maelstrom. Otherwise, general perks, Rezill, then Shirking Fort, Refreshing, Freedom, Elia version, all those good ones. On our jewelry, neck, health, stam recovery, / protection. On the ring, we're going to be looking for Invigorated Punishment, / damage. Hardy, I think would be really nice, but I think having a leeching component with this is great. On your earring, same thing as pretty much the other ones. Refreshing Toast, Refreshing, and then Regenerating would be great, or Purifying Toast, anything like that. All right, starting on the Onslaught side, we'll be taking Relentless Rush. This is great for AoE, Lockdown, because it can root, and then as well as getting you out of root and other CC. We're then going to go into Skyward Slash. This is going to give us a huge amount of burst and then put a ton of rend onto the target. We'll be going all the way into Onslaught to get passive cooldown reduction, so no need for something like Refreshing Move. The rest, we're looking at crit modifiers. So going into Onslaught gives us crit. We get healing and stamina back on crit. We're going to go for more ways to get into Onslaught, and then speed and general more damage with our heavy attacks like Armor Pen. On the Defiance side, the only thing, this is where you can kind of pivot. I like to take Steadfast Strike and use it as a pull, because I don't really feel that I need more mobility or anything else like in defensiveness. Roaring Rupture is a little weird to use. What I will say is you can use Energizing Counter. And this you can use as a way to fill some stand back so that you can continue rolling, doing other things, or even just kind of as like a pseudo riposte. So I would say debate between Calamity Counter and Steadfast Strike. Personally, Steadfast is really nice just for getting a little tiny bit of a heal, but you can pull people back to you so that you can continue attacking them. We'll go into just the passive damage components, some damage reduction, and then putting bleeds and gridded heavy attacks on the Defiance side. Or the Hatchet starting on the Berserker side, we're going to want something like this. We simply just want Berserk and we want Defy Death. We're not going to be using this as our auto attack weapons. There's no reason to go into all these modifiers. We're then going to also take Feral Rush because we want to use it for distance and mobility, but as well as CC. We catch somebody in the back with it and boom, they can't move, their toast. On the throwing side, I recommend this for just passive damage, but we really want Social Distancing. Social Distancing is going to give us the ability to root a target if they're farther than 6 meters away. So, perfect setup and easy to chase down once you've gotten them with the Greatsword. It then also gives us a little bit of stamina reduction after using an ability. For this, when it comes to grit, I think going the 300 strength, 200 con route is best, but if you really want to, you could go into something like 300 strength, 50 dex for more scaling in that crit, and then also going 150 con. Otherwise, you could go 250 strength, 50 dex, and then into con. I personally feel that you don't need to do the damage min maxing when we could just sit there with grit, and that small amount of min max is not going to be better than having grit on everything you're doing. For the weapons on Greatsword, I personally think thwarting strikes and then keenly jagged and then plagued crits are going to be your best in slot. You'll have a lot of extra ticking through this, and you'll get your heart rune charged faster, and you'll have heal reduction, plus everything is gridded. On our hatchet, personally, I just end up using blackguards. I don't do a ton of hatchet damage here. I think having thwarting strikes is great, but this one, it's not as specific. Just looking for something with some damage modifiers is going to help you when you're hitting with throws or just getting that lockdown before you swap back to the Greatsword. Greatsword is your main damage. I think once again, having some sort of rune glass opal is going to be your best for both weapons, especially because the Greatsword synergizes so well with an opal because in Onslaught stance, you're spending stamina. Now on to gear perks. Specific ability perks that could be useful in your kit. You absolutely need Relentless Freedom. We can then choose some hatchet perks on the side. We could go into Crippling Feral Rush to help once we've locked somebody down. We then apply a slow if you can fit it into the build. You could also go for Refreshing Distancing Throw if you use it for mobility's sake. Let's say you get caught in a grav well, using it, hit someone with it, you get pretty good cooldown reduction so that you can then use it again if you need to chase somebody. And then perks are pretty much the same. We're looking for Resil, Shirking Fort, Refreshing, Freedom, and if you had to, Elemental Aversion. On our amulet, we're looking for health, stam recovery, and then slash protection, most likely. Again, whatever protection you can get. Ring, invigorated punishment, slash damage hardy would be great because anything with crit is pretty much a waste since there's so much crit on the weapon already with its abilities. We could then also go for leeching if you have a ring like that, any of those mixes. And then earring, same idea, refreshing toast, refreshing, regenerating would be great, or purifying toast. All right, those are the builds. Winston and I hope that you really enjoyed it. I hope you go pop off, do a ton of damage in PvP, and I hope this helps. I've been working a lot on trying to improve the quality of what's getting put out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a comment if you're liking what I'm doing. Let me know if you have any input, thoughts, all that stuff. Otherwise, hit the links below. If you need anything, feel free to DM me. I could send you more pictures of that guy if you really wanted. But as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you to every single one of you beautiful people for being you. I sincerely appreciate you. And thank you for everything.